my name is Alex, I'm a patchwork nerd, and according to my Diet Coke, my name is actually Nathaniel. As some of you might know, I am someone who fast drafts my novel, which means I try to write the first draft of my novel as fast as possible. I usually write my first drafts during NaNoWriMo. For those of you who aren't familiar, NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, where you attempt to write 50,000 words in 30 days. I just want to get my draft done as fast as possible because then I can start doing rewrites and heavy edits, and it's much easier for me. But there are definitely some pluses and some minuses to fast drafting, so today we're going to take a look at the pros and cons of fast drafting to see if this is a writing technique that will work well for you. The first thing that I really love about fast drafting is that it causes you to pull the band-aid off. I am someone who thrives off being able to scratch something off of my to-do list or check a box, and fast drafting allows you to check the box of finishing your first draft very quickly. That satisfying feeling is something that definitely helps inspire me to keep going and to then dive into the second revision. So fast drafting is a great way to be able to just rip the band-aid off and get your draft done really quickly. A con to fast drafting is that your draft is going to look really sloppy. A lot of times my drafts end up looking like outlines on steroids. They have more directions and blocking tips and dialogue with no tags and no idea of who's actually saying what, or even little chunks that say insert battle scene here or have intense argument in this spot, put description here. There is a lot to fix and a lot to go back and add because you are fast drafting, because you're moving so quickly. If you're not feeling inspired to get a certain part done, just put something there to hold its place and keep going. The thing you have to keep in mind though is that something you want to deal with later, or do you want to go slower and not have to do heavy cleanup edits and revision in that second phase? For me, I don't mind doing that, but that's something you've really got to think about before you jump into fast drafting, because it's gonna be a big old hot mess, and for some people that is gonna be pretty darn overwhelming. Another thing that I really love about fast drafts is that it allows you to experiment quickly. I make very detailed outlines, but a lot of times I don't know if an idea is going to work until I actually create the scene in which that idea is happening, or put in that character that I'm kind of on the fence about, or putting in that dialogue that I'm not sure if that's going to help the flow of the story or not. I will just throw in my experiments, and because I'm writing so quickly, I can see really fast if that idea is going to actually work out, or if I need to scratch it and move on to a new idea. So sometimes there's some pantsing elements involved with my drafts because I am trying things out and then scrapping ideas so quickly that I am just kind of Frankensteining my novel together. The cool thing is when you are fast drafting, you can get a lot of those experiments out of the way because you're moving so quickly, and then you can move on to new ideas. So there's a lot of room for making changes when you're doing a fast draft. And the cool thing is I'm not spending months trying to make that idea work. Instead, that idea is maybe stretching out over a couple days, a week at the most, and then I'm moving on from there. Another con to fast drafting is you are gonna lose a lot of time on the back half. Because you're moving so quickly in the first half of writing the first draft, you're gonna have to really slow down when it comes to future drafts of your novel, because that's when you're going to be adding those elements that you put insert something here. You're gonna have to go back and you're gonna have to figure that out, and you're gonna have to really slow down and flesh out scenes in much more detail. You're gonna have to go back and remember, okay, who did say this piece of dialogue, and putting those tags back in. And that's something you're going to have to assess if that works for you or not, because for some people that is a very overwhelming task to think that you're gonna have to do all of this really heavy cleanup in the second phase of writing your novel. Think of your story as a foundation. When you're fast drafting, that foundation is going to be more akin to a soft gingerbread than an actual concrete. So you're going to have to really build and think about whether you want to start with that firm foundation to begin with, or if you're okay with starting with something that is delicious but doesn't have a lot of substance and adding the substance later. I think I might be hungry. Another pro to fast drafting is that you get to know your characters really quickly. I am someone, and I've made a video about this before, but I can't get to know my characters through character sheets, that just doesn't work for me. I need to actually write those characters to understand who they are. And one of the main ways I've learned my characters is through dialogue and hearing their voice, and also putting them in the middle of actions and seeing what they do. And when you're fast drafting, you get to know your characters really quickly because you get to see the actions that they take and the choices they make and the things they say very quickly. It puts a lens on that. I really enjoy that I can get to know my characters really quickly because this allows me to have that ability to get to know my characters without having to do those character sheets and still staying true to the method that works best for me. And my final con to fast drafting is things like setting and imagery tend to take a really big back seat to the rest of what you're working on. I tend to have very limited descriptions in my first drafts, and I have pretty much a box that my characters are interacting in, and then I'll mention the objects and the furniture and the details of the room that they happen to touch or interact with. But in my first drafts, you pretty much think that my entire story was taking place in a pitch black room because I don't have a lot of description to start out. If you're someone who needs to feel your way through a story by having that imagery and by having the setting very present from the beginning, fast drafting might not be the best fit for you. Although for some people you might be able to find a way to include those details and keep going, but for me, I just find that it tends to slow down my writing process. So those are the pros and cons that I find with fast drafting, and I definitely recommend that if you never fast draft it before, maybe try NaNoWriMo. We have Camp NaNoWriMo coming up in July, and that is National Novel Writing Month in July, where you try to write a story in 31 days instead of 30 days. So that's a really cool thing. That is a really great time to try to get a project done as fast as humanly possible. If you are wanting to experiment with fast drafting, NaNoWriMo and Camp NaNoWriMo is a great time to do it. I hope you enjoyed this look at the different things that I find are pros and cons to fast drafting, and I'd love to hear from you guys. How do you prefer to write your first drafts? I'd love if you could leave that in a comment down below. And like I said before, I am definitely a fast drafter. I just like to rip the band-aid off, get my first draft done right away, because I just tend to enjoy getting everything down on paper right away before I can overthink it, because I'm someone who gets caught up in my head very easily. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about this. If you are new to my channel, please hit that like button as well as that happy little subscribe button. I post new videos on Mondays. Also, every Sunday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, you can join me over on Twitter for #WritersPatch. That is the writing chat I host where we all get to know fellow writers and talk about different writing related topics. You can follow me at Patchwork Nerd. Also, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters for helping me be able to make these videos, and I hope you get lots and lots and lots of writing done. So until I see you next time, remember, keep writing, keep laughing, and most importantly, keep encouraging each other. I'll see you next time. Toodles!